Okay, yes, I'm wearing my favorite lightning bolt earrings, but if you are a fan of Vanderpump Rules and are, like myself, just entangled in all of this drama coming out, these are not a sign that I am on Rachel and Tom Sandoval's side. Nope. I just love my lightning bolt earrings, and those two are bold and stupid. And if anyone wants to chat Vanderpump Rules with me, please feel free to DM me. I am a huge Vanderpump Rules fan, and all of this tea that has been coming out is just feeding my inner, like, reality TV show junkie. So I'm just loving it. Obviously not for Ariana. Ariana, you deserve better. But this reunion, though, this is about to be the best Vanderpump Rules reunion ever. But we're not here to talk about Vanderpump Rules today, even though, like I said, if you want to chat about it with me, please just let me know, or we can discuss down in the comments. Fully glad to do so. But we're actually here to talk about all of the books that I read in February. I think I ended up with like 13 or 14 books this month, which is not like as many as I normally tend to read, but this year I'm really trying not to put a focus on myself of how many books I'm reading. It's more about like the quality of the books and like my enjoyment of the books. And also this month I had a vacation and February is a shorter month. So doing 14 books still is still really good for me. Anyways, without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump in. So the first book that I read this month, you know what, let me just put this here so that way I don't have to keep like looking over here for it. Okay, first book that I read this month was Stitches by Sam Mariano. So I actually read this for a reading vlog. I will link that vlog down below. It was my reading vlog that I did with Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl. We each picked 2 books for each other to read, and this was one of the ones that she picked for me. So I will link that video so you can hear my full thoughts about it. But I really loved this book. I ended up giving it 5 stars. So this one is a friends to lovers MFM romance. So this one follows Moira and Sebastian. Is he the married one? I think. Okay, so it's a married couple. I'm pretty sure Sebastian is her husband, and it's these two, and they're in love. They're just sickly in love. They've always been in love, whatever. And they have a really great friend, Griff, who he is also married to this one woman, but like they don't really get along that well. He's having a lot of marriage issues, and Griff and Sebastian have like grown up together. You learn like all of their history and stuff about like their childhood and stuff, but they're like best friends. They used to share everything, but Moira is like the one thing that they never shared. But then as their friendship is kind of starting to fracture a little bit because of things that you'll read, Sebastian's like, hey, what if I share my wife with you? Will that like get you to stay? Will that make you feel better? So he offers to start sharing Moira. And don't think that Moira's not into it. She is. She's into it. And yeah, it starts their whole situation. So there's no like sword crossing. Like Sebastian and Griff are not like interested in each other. They just both want Moira. And this was just so fun. I love the MFM. I loved the friends to lovers. I love the progression of both the relationships. I felt a really strong connection between Moira and Sebastian, which is what I kind of lacked in Give Me More by Sarah Kate, when it's like kind of a similar kind of circumstance. I didn't feel any connection between the married couple in that one, but in this one, like I felt their connection, and then I also felt her connection with Griff, and I felt the guys' friendship with each other. It also like takes some twists and turns a little bit, which like was kind of fun. And yeah, overall, like I just really enjoyed this book. So yeah, like I said, you can check out my vlog for my full thoughts, but overall loved it. Next up, I reread this was my 3rd time rereading Twist and Dismount by Lucia Franco. Me, Cheyenne, and Caitlin from the Love Librarian, we were doing an Off Balance read along at the beginning of this year, and this month, it's wrapped up now, but at the beginning of the month, Twist and Dismount were our last 2 books to read, and I love these. I've talked about the series so many times. I can't even really talk about what happens in these 2 because it's the 4th and 5th book in a 5-book series, all following the same couple, so you just have to like read it in order to know about it. But it follows Rhea and Kova, and it's a coach-athlete age gap romance. Rhea has dreams of going to the Olympics, and Kova is her coach, a former Olympian, and he's going to be the one to take her there. And it's their romance and her journey and her gymnastics career, and it's just my favorite series of all time. I just love it. Twist and Dismount are my 2 favorite books in the series, both 5 stars. Love them forever and always. And yeah, you don't need to hear me drone on about them literally any more than I already do. Next up, I read Bad Boy Blues by Saffron Kent. So I listened to the audiobook of this one. So this is like the beginning book of her St. Mary's Rebels series. I think that's what it's called. So this one follows Cleo and Zach. It's a bully romance, and also I don't know, like it's not really like boss employee, but so Zach's family lives at this mansion. He's from a very, very wealthy family, and Cleo also lives at this mansion, but she's like a maid. She's like a part of the staff there. So there's also like that dynamic. So it's not like boss employee because like Zach isn't her boss, but he is a part of the family that she works for. So this was also a bully romance. So they're out of high school, but when we pick up, Cleo really has like no family left whatsoever. You learn what kind of happened with all that. And all she really has left is the hope of one day being able to like buy back her family's home. So she's working really hard at this mansion to try to make money. And then one day when she's working, she learns that the prince is returning to the mansion, and that is Zach. And as soon as she sees him, all of the memories come flooding back of him and his friends like bullying her in high school. But then also you see like that maybe things weren't how she thought they were in the like back then, their romance. And you also learn that there's more to Zach than like him just being like this rich kid, like that he has, you know, some depth to him, and he wants Cleo and Cleo wants him, and it's their romance. I really liked this one. I gave this one, I think, 4 stars. I will say it wasn't like my favorite book that I read by Saffron Kent, but it's not my least favorite one I've read of hers either. I do really think that she has a very specific style of heroines. So if you do not like her style of heroines, I feel like they tend to have like similar vibes across the board. And Cleo was no different than some of the other ones that I've read. So I'm just saying, so if you've read other Saffron Kent books and you don't love her heroines, I just think that's kind of like a theme in her books, which like if you like it, it works. If it doesn't work for you. But I like it, and I did like this book, and I'm definitely going to keep continuing on with the series. Okay, what do we have up next? Oh, we have a physical one that I own. Okay, Offside by Avery Keelan. So I read this one this month as well, and I loved this one. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, rounded up to 5. So this one follows Chase and, or no, is it Carter? Chase and Bailey, okay. But his name is Chase Carter, and he goes by Carter a lot. And anyways, his name is Chase, and it's a college rivals to lovers hockey romance. So Bailey is dating the team captain at her college, at her university, and on her 21st birthday, he ends up breaking up with her, and she is kind of like, what the hell? And like, she was very embedded in like this hockey culture at her university. Her brother plays on the team. All of her friends are dating guys on the team. So that's like kind of where her whole group is. So then when he breaks up with her, she's kind of left reeling a lot from that. And one night she goes out with some of her friends outside of the hockey group, and she ends up seeing Chase at a bar, and Chase ends up seeing her, and he immediately like hits on her and wants her, but he doesn't realize that she knows who he is right away, and that she knows that he's the rival player on the other team. And like rivals, like these two school teams hate each other. So she's like, I could never like even hook up with you. Like I can't do that to my team, to my school, to my friends, whatever. But then as she starts to kind of think about it, she's like, you know what? He is hot. I need a rebound. Like screw all of these people who have kind of turned their back on me now. I'm going to hook up with Chase, and it's their romance. It definitely, though, it's not as like insta-lovey. Like they don't hook up very early on because like things happen at the bar that night. And they don't actually end up hooking up, but he does end up walking her home, and he's like such a sweetheart. So Chase, obviously he's the star hockey player, and he is a bit of a playboy, but the way that he is with Bailey is just so sweet and patient and kind and caring and loving, and he's like such a soft boy for her. But when her ex, and when they play, because obviously the teams play each other in hockey games, when her ex tries to trash talk her to him, oh, if you don't think that Chase is going to do something about it, you are wrong. You are wrong. Just wait until you see what he does to him. That's what got me to read this book, is because I saw a reel of someone like talking about that scene. And I was like, I have to read it. And that scene was great. And I loved it. Here's the thing though, why I got 4.5 instead of a full 5. I was loving this book, and I still do really, really love it. However, this like kind of a chunk here, rip it out. We didn't need that like ending storyline kind of thrown in there. In my opinion, it didn't need to be in there. It felt dragged out, but I still enjoyed this story overall. I'm just such a sucker for a hockey romance. Next up, I went on a bit of a Sophie Lark binge. I read 4 of her books this month. So the first 2 that I read back to back are Bloody Heart by Sophie Lark. Obviously, it's the 4th book in the Brutal Birthright series. So this one follows Dante and Simone. So these are interconnected standalones within a series. So I think you could like jump to this one if you really wanted to, but I like reading things in order, and I've enjoyed reading them in order. So Dante is a part of the mafia. He's the oldest son of one of the mafia families, so he has kind of taken on the role of like, you know, what first sons tend to do. So we start in the past where he meets Simone one night. Simone is he a diplomat? Is her father a diplomat? Her father is like a politician. I'm thinking he's like a diplomat of some sort. So she's been raised to be very like prim, proper, do the right thing, whatever. And one night at a gala, she's in a car that Dante ends up like hijacking and drives away from the scene. And then they end up like connecting, and they have like this like fiery connection that then neither of them can get out of their heads, and they start like sneaking around together after that. And then things happen and they are kind of like forced to be apart. And then we jump ahead to the future. Dante's gone through a lot of stuff. He's been to the military. He's very bitter, just like about how kind of like his life has become. And like Simone, like he's closed off his heart to all women. And Simone, she ended up having his baby while he was away, and you find out what all happened with that. So this is a secret baby. That's not like spoiling anything. Like, you know that it's a secret baby going into it. So now like 8 years later, something ends up bringing them back together, and they like run into each other, not planning on it, but they do end up running into each other, and they end up reconnecting. And Simone's very scared to tell Dante about this secret that she's kept from him, but Dante is very set on like, now that I have the second chance with her, I'm not going to let her go. I did really enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars. It's definitely not my favorite in the series. It's actually probably my least favorite so far, but I mean, I still gave 4 stars. Like, I still enjoyed it. Overall, like, they weren't my favorite couple. I don't really love the secret baby. However, the secret baby wasn't even that huge of a factor in this, which I did like. Like, there wasn't a huge focus on that. I just felt like some things weren't like resolved as much as I would have liked at the end. Like, I just wanted some more conversations to happen, but it's okay. Whatever. It was fine. Then Broken Vow is the 5th book, and this one follows Riona and Raylan. So this one is a bodyguard romance, again in the mafia. So Riona is the younger sister of another mafia family in Chicago. Her older brother has the 1st book in this series, and so obviously she's very involved in the mafia. She's a lawyer, and she handles a lot of their legal things. And one night when she is swimming after work in her pool at her apartment, someone tries to drown her and tries to kill her, and she ends up getting away. But then they find out that someone is in fact trying to kill her and put a hit out on her. So her family ends up hiring a bodyguard, which is Raylan, who we meet in the 4th book in Bloody Heart. A friend of Dante's from the military. He's this like Southern cowboy, military kind of gentleman who shows up, and he definitely pushes Riona's buttons. She's very like type A. She likes things the way she likes them. She's a workaholic. She's very like cold, or no, she's not very cold, but she doesn't like have time for like humor, games, whatever. And Raylan just like wants to kind of have fun, like be kind of like a little more lighthearted. And he just likes to see her and kind of like get a reaction out of her. And he ends up becoming her bodyguard. And things happen that they end up having to go away to his ranch back home in like Tennessee or something, and kind of like take her away from the mafia a little bit, but obviously still on the run from this assassin that's trying to take her out. So I really liked this one. I really loved their relationship. Here's my thing. I know it's just my personal thing. I don't like country kind of romances. I don't like cowboys. I don't like ranches. That's not my personal style, okay? I have my reasons, but like everyone just has different preferences, and that is just not one of mine. So I didn't mind their time on the ranch at first, but then the more time that they spent like horseback riding and like, I don't know, I was just kind of like, can we go back to Chicago? Like, can we go back to the city? So that was my like one thing about this book, was that I didn't really like that, but I liked everything else about it. So anyways, I gave this one 4 stars as well. I loved this one, Scarred by Emily McIntyre. So I listened to the audiobook of this one. It was on my Hoopla, and I loved this one. So this is the 2nd book in her Never After series. However, they're like standalones within a series, so you don't have to read Hooked if you don't want to. You can just jump into this one. But if you don't know the premise of these series, they're all like a twist on fairy tales. So the first one is Peter Pan, but it's like Hook and Wendy, and then this one is The Lion King. I love this one. I was in the mood for a royalty romance that's just like scratch that itch as well. So this involves Sarah and Tristan. So this takes place back in like the 1900s, but it doesn't like feel like, I don't know, it just like kind of sets that vibe, you know, it sets that tone of like royalty town kind of like vibe. And Sarah comes from this one family where her father was killed, and she believes that they were killed by these, right? Was it by the crown? So her uncle is planning to get his revenge, and he's using Sarah to kind of do it. So he's trained Sarah to become like a bit of a killer, and he arranges her marriage to King Michael, who is now just taking up his father's crown. His father passed away, and she is now his betrothed. So she goes there with the mission to like get in and kill him. But then when she arrives there, she ends up meeting Tristan, who is Michael's younger brother, and he's the Scar. He's Scar, okay? Like that's the best way I could put it. Like, Michael is Mufasa, but like say that Mufasa's like a bad dude, and Tristan is Scar, who's like also a bad dude, but like more morally gray, you know, like more like our kind of speed, you know, of like the dude that she should be with. And he is the leader of the rebels, and he is also trying to take down his brother, and they form a bit of a romance, even though they shouldn't be together, they shouldn't want to be together, and they both have their own agendas, and it's like, are they going to line up, or are their agendas going to conflict with each other, and how are they going to make that choice if they do? This was just so good. Like, I loved this. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed the writing. I loved the like Lion King aspects of it. I really loved their relationship. I loved the events that happened. I loved how things unfolded. The pacing was good. The writing was good. This was just like, I was really excited about this one. And I think because I went into it with lower expectations, because I liked Hooked, but it wasn't my favorite. But this, like, I loved it. Sorry, I also feel like I'm not doing a very good job of explaining, but then I'm looking at my time and I'm like talking so much, and I'm like, but I feel like you're saying a lot of nothing. So I don't know. Next up, for Out of Bounds Book Club, we read Bad Wrong Things by C.P. Harris. Smut Clubs, I DNF'd, so I'm not even going to get into that. I'll do like a DNF video at some point, but I DNF'd that one, so that's why that one's not even in here. But Out of Bounds Book Club, I did end up finishing this one because it was shorter, and this one is Bad Wrong Things by C.P. Harris. So I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. Here's the thing with this one, I truly didn't care about it. I was not invested whatsoever. It's not bad. I just like, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I just felt like meh about it. So this one is a best friend's dad age gap romance. So Raven, when he was younger, he was taken in by Clint, who already has a son of his own and is a police officer, and he went and saw Raven's like living situation and took him out of that, away from his mother, who really struggled with addiction. Raven kind of like became his son's best friend, and like he helped raise him and kind of became like his guardian a little bit. When Raven turned like 18, he started kind of like seeing Clint in a different light and kind of wanting him in a different way, but he like didn't want to admit to that because he didn't think that Clint would ever reciprocate. So he ended up kind of like distancing himself a little bit. And now in like his early 20s, his best friend, he just graduated college and now he's going off to the military, and his best friend, who's Clint's son, is like, hey, can I like watch out for him this summer? Just make sure that he kind of like lives it up a little bit. And Raven ends up agreeing, and then they end up having a relationship while the son is away, and they end up, you know, falling in love. But Raven was also hooking up with his best friend before his best friend left. So that's going to create some complications. Yeah, I don't know. It was just fine. It was just fine. I was not invested whatsoever. Heavy Crown by Sophie Lark. The last book in the Brutal Birthright series. This one is my second favorite out of the series overall. I loved this one. 5 stars. This one follows Sebastian and Yelena. So Sebastian is the youngest brother of one of the mafia families. So you got his 3 siblings books earlier in the series, and now this is his. And if you read the first one, you will know that he was like on track to become this big basketball star. But then there was a confrontation where his knee was broken and like shattered. Basketball career was no more. So he's just kind of just wondering like where he fits in now in his life, and now like his brothers are kind of off and doing their own thing, and he's like, maybe I do need to have more of an involvement in the family business a little bit. So he one night is walking home, and he ends up seeing Yelena being like forcibly into a trunk, and he runs over and like tries to help her, and they end up like heading off, having a great night. And then when you get in Yelena's POV, you learn that that was actually a setup. She is the daughter of a Russian mafia boss who hates Sebastian's family, and was actually setting up his daughter to try to infiltrate Sebastian and tried to like get in with his family to like destroy them. And you learn that he's using Yelena to do so. But over the course of this, Yelena actually does end up falling for Sebastian. But obviously, you know that things are not going to work out well when their relationship was basically built on a lie. And at some point, Sebastian's got to find out about it. And when he does, he's not going to be happy. But I loved this one. By far my second favorite. Like Savage Lover is still my favorite overall, but this one is by far my second favorite. I love Sebastian and Yelena. I love their relationship. I love them individually as characters. And like when something happened in this book, it's like right around the 50% mark. So I was kind of like, this all seems like a little too easy right now. Like what's going to happen? And then something happened and I was like, And what I just really love about Sophie Lark's characters is that her heroines, even though they're in these mafia worlds where like sometimes they don't tend to have a lot of agency over their own lives, she was like, they're like all really strong heroines. And that's how Yelena is as well. Like her father is obviously a piece of garbage and kind of treats her as like a pawn, but she has a mind of her own and she has strength on her own and she's not afraid to like showcase that. And when she kind of like gets in a position where she can do something about it, she's going to do something about it. Just loved her. Loved her. Okay, next up then, I read Ivan by Sophie Lark. So this one is the first book in, is it the Boston Underworld series? I don't know what the series is called, but you have to read Ivan and Snow until you can read Kingmakers, which is what I'm trying to get to. So I read Ivan, and so this one follows Ivan and Sloane, and it's another mafia one, but this one takes place over... Is it in Russia? Yeah, and it's an assassin mafia boss romance. So Ivan, he's running shop over there. He's got his mafia business going. And Sloane is an assassin. So when we start, she is working at a strip club to do a hit. And then after she completes that hit, she goes home and she gets another one wired through to her from like her broker who like arranges these hits. And she learns that there is one out for Ivan, and she ends up accepting it because it's a lot of money and she really wants to get out of Russia and like go and try to like maybe make a life for herself somewhere else outside of like killing. But she's really good at killing. She ends up accepting the mission to go kill Ivan, and as she's getting into his compound, because he literally lives in like a compound, like it's super hard to break into, and just like her breaking into it was fun. And then she quietly creeps into his bedroom while he's sleeping and is about to kill him. Well, yeah, that doesn't end up happening, and he ends up catching her. And at first he's like, how dare this person try to kill me, and is like fighting her and like about to like kill her. And then he realizes like, oh my God, this is a woman. Like he thought that it was just a small man, but no, it was her. And then he sees her and he's immediately like, first he's like, she's beautiful. But then second, like kind of like respect. Like I was almost just killed. Like you almost succeeded in killing me. So like, I'm interested to know more about you. And he ends up kind of like making Sloane his prisoner, and it ends up being their romance. I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I really liked Sloane. Once again, a really strong, badass female heroine. I liked the circumstances of her being a killer and like him having that respect for her. It's like, yeah, she almost got you. She almost got you. And yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. Next up, I read My Professor by Shanora Williams. So I am almost done. I think, what do I have? I think I maybe have like 4 or 5 books left on Shanora Williams' backlist. Like I've been making my way through it. She's one of my favorite authors, and My Professor was one that I hadn't read yet, so I found the audio on my Hoopla, so I listened to that. This is just a quick novella. Obviously, it's student teacher, and it follows Zara and Cole. So it's Zara's a freshman in college, I think, and of course, she bumps into this guy in the coffee shop one day, ends up spilling some coffee on him. They have a little like moment, and then whatever, they go their separate ways, and then she shows up to class, and guess who is her new professor? The guy from the coffee shop that she spilled coffee on, and it ends up being their romance. And yeah, I liked this one. It was fine. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. It's like a solid novella. Obviously their relationship has to move pretty quickly. Their like feelings for each other have to move pretty quickly because it's a novella. Sometimes, you know, you just want something like a little shorter and quicker and more to the point, and that's like what this is. There are like ramifications for them being together, which like I like to see, you know, what comes out of that, how they work through that. And yeah, so overall this is like a really solid novella. Like I definitely recommend it. It's just not like my favorite by Shanora Williams. Imagine Me by Fiona Cole. I also listened to this I actually listened to quite a bit on audio. So this one follows Shane and Juliana. So this one is a brother's best friend, age gap, kind of second chance / like friends with benefits romance. So Shane is Juliana's older brother's best friend, and there's like quite a bit of an age gap. I think it's like 12 or 13 years. On vacation one night, she ends up going to his hotel room. They end up hooking up, having a great night together. But then when she kind of like goes back to Shane to like see what's gonna happen, he's gone, and she has to like return home, and she's just kind of left reeling a little bit. And then next time she sees Shane, she kind of expects for him to maybe like say something, or she just kind of expects more out of him than for him to just like ignore her, not even discuss whatever happened, and treat her like a little girl who can't handle a man, as he says. And she's like, oh, hell no, I'm gonna prove to you that I can like handle you. And she ends up pursuing him and making him jealous with like other people and stuff. And eventually he agrees to a situation with her of them just like basically being friends with benefits. But again, no telling her brother. You know that friends with benefits is just never gonna work out. The no feelings is just never gonna work out for anyone. And obviously the no telling her brother is never gonna work out. And it doesn't for them either. But I did really enjoy this. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I think, did I round it up or down? I can't remember if I rounded it up or down. It was good. It wasn't my favorite by Fiona Cole. I've read pretty much all of her backlist. This is like the last series that I haven't read. I'm pretty sure it's 3 books. And this is like the last of her work that I haven't read. And I don't know, it was fine. It was a solid book. Once again, I didn't feel any sort of like emotional investment in either of the characters. So I was like, yay, glad you're together and happy, but like, Do I really care? Not really. And lastly, I read The Lawyer by Marnie Mann. I listened to this in one day. It was so good, so addictive. I gave it 4 stars. This one follows Dominic and Kendall, and it's a Hollywood slash like boss employee-ish, but not really. We'll get into it. So Dominic and Kendall, one night at a club, they end up seeing each other and having a great hookup night that night, and then kind of go their separate ways. And then Kendall is actually an assistant in Hollywood to her sister, who is like an influencer, kind of like celebrity. And she joins her sister at this one meeting. And when she gets in the meeting, she realizes that Dominic is there, and Dominic sees her and is like, oh my God, it's the girl from the club. And he kind of sees Kendall, and they're talking about this casting for a new reality TV show that's going to be coming out, and he's like, Kendall, you would be kind of perfect for that, and like, I'd like to represent you. He's a lawyer, obviously the lawyer, and he's her sister's lawyer, and her sister is having none of this. Her sister is very jealous, puts down Kendall a lot, just like is very full of herself, and she's like, no, why would they want her and not me? And Kendall ends up like kind of looking into it, and she decides, you know, like, hey, this would be a good opportunity for me. She has some things that she's like, she just doesn't really have a lot going for her, and she's just trying to get her feet under herself, and like working for her sister is not necessarily doing that for her. So she's like, you know what, if Dominic's offering to be my lawyer and represent me, then like I'm gonna go ahead and take him up on it, and I'm going to join this reality TV show. And it ends up being their romance. So obviously on the show, Dominic wants to be kept out of the spotlight, so they try to keep their relationship a secret, but obviously that's not gonna work when you're on a reality TV show. And her sister is not very happy with her for accepting it. So, and she is definitely not happy when Kendall starts to grow in popularity. So obviously the sister is gonna be a problem. And it was just fun. Like, I just really enjoyed it. It was just like a fun book. It was quick. It was hot. It was just kind of like what I wanted and needed at the time. So yeah, definitely enjoyed. Okay, so that's all the books that I read in February. So March is already starting off to be a pretty good month. I'm excited. So this is my video for Tuesday. Then on Friday, I have a really fun video. I'm doing a series of 4 videos, and you're going to be seeing, if you watch some booktube, you're going to maybe be seeing some familiar faces in the books. And the first one, in the books, in the videos, and the first one is going to be up on Friday. I'm really excited about it. Something very different, just something fun, and I hope you guys will enjoy the series as much as I'm enjoying doing them. So anyways, that is it for today's video, and I will turn around here, and I will see ya when I see ya.